Next in line, we have Dialog's Group Chief Operating Officer, who leads the group's business units, corporate planning, M&A, and of course, corporate strategy. He has over 20 years of in-depth experience in telecommunications, digital and IT services, media and entertainment, e-commerce, digital marketing, and corporate strategy in major and emerging markets across startups and multinationals. Prior to joining Dialog Axiata, he served as Chief Product and Innovation Officer at Reliance Jio India and was directly responsible for setting up Jio's business units and leading the launch program to acquire initial 100 million customers in just 170 days. Preceding Reliance Jio, he was the Senior Vice President Core Telco Products at Deutsche Telekom AG, Germany, building and leading the Deutsche Telekom's co-product portfolio households across 14 European markets, serving 90 billion customers and 30 million households. Ladies and gentlemen, he's an advisor and investor in digital telco. Please welcome Dr. Rainer Deutschmann, the Group Chief Operating Officer, Dialog Axiata PLC, to talk to you on To the Power of X.
Up next, please welcome Dr. Rainer Deutschmann, Group Chief Operating Officer, Dialog Axiata PLC.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming. I think next time we have to get a bigger space. Amazing to have you all here. Who was participating in the last year's event? I just would like to understand. Raise your hands. Quite a number. So last year, if you recall, Sundar Pichai has made a significant announcement. He has announced a fundamental shift from a mobile-first to an AI-first strategy. So how much has happened in the last 12 months since this announcement was made? Just a few facts and figures for you guys to recap. 250 million new internet users have joined. Now, for the first time this year, there's more than half of the world's population connected to the internet. 360 million new social media users have joined the community. The majority of them from only 4 countries. You might guess which ones: China, India, Indonesia, and Iran. 170 billion apps have been downloaded through the app stores. 60% increase year on year from the year before. And they've generated 68 billion US dollar, 100% more than the year before. What an amazing growth and addition to the internet community. Also, we have seen an amazing number of tech news, and I can only pick a very small number. For example, IBM has started to provide quantum computing from the cloud. At the CES in Jan, if you have seen, Intel has unveiled the 49-qubit quantum processor, 49 being, according to Google, a fairly significant number because it represents what is called the quantum supremacy, which is where we believe quantum computers to crunch problems which are otherwise unfeasible to be crunched by classical computers. Of course, Google didn't sleep. Just in March, Google has presented the Bristol core, the Bristol cone, which is a 72-qubit quantum chip, so the race is on. I can't go without mentioning crypto. I'm not sure who all of you has done their own initial coin offering. Just to mention that ICO's initial coin offerings in the last year have generated 3.5x the funds to blockchain-related companies as compared to the classical venture capital money, which makes it about $5 billion US. So Sundar's vision to go from a mobile-first to an AI-first strategy clearly shows, and it doesn't even only show in Google, it shows in the entire industry. I think we witness a dramatic shift from the classical deep learning, which requires loads of data, it requires smart data scientists, and it requires GPU-level computation, to self-optimizing and self-learning networks and self-learning models that run in an edge computing way, rather than just out of the cloud. Just a few examples to illustrate what I mean here, and I'm sure all of you might have heard some of these examples. Cloud AutoML that Google has announced in the last year is one of the recent examples to automate the design of machine learning models. In lay terms, people say AutoML actually creates its own child, which is trained and yet ready to be used. Applied to vision, AutoML has outperformed all other vision systems. Now even lay users can obtain the optimized custom model, which is ready to be trained. DeepMind's AlphaGo Zero, if you have seen, just last year, has been created and actually became its own teacher. AlphaGo Zero is not even dependent anymore on the constraints of the human knowledge and on the constraints of the training data. It is creating its knowledge from first principles. Over the course of only 40 days, and you should read if you haven't done it, it's very fascinating. AlphaGo Zero played about 29 million games against itself and improved over time to what we could call a superhuman level, beating all previous versions of AlphaGo, of course beating all humans and reaching an ELO rating of 5,185, which is by far the highest ever achieved by anyone, including machines. So there's a new breed of companies, like Spark Beyond, if you want to look it up, who automate and scale the creative part of data science. Some even say they are starting to disrupt the data scientist himself. Yesterday, if you have seen at Microsoft's Build conference, Microsoft demonstrated deploying readily trained AI models on the very edge of the networks to the growing army of smart devices. They've demonstrated this with the camera in partnership with Qualcomm and also with drones. And of course, Google calls it AIY, artificial intelligence yourself, where they've put a state-of-the-art TensorFlow model based real-time image recognition on basically a toy which can be obtained by the children to do real-time image processing right there. So these are amazing developments in terms of numbers, amazing developments in terms of tech advances. But we have also seen the limits of technology, and we have seen that we are playing, in a sense, with fire. Just in March, sadly, an autonomous Uber car has killed a woman in what seems to be the first reported case of an autonomous car killing a pedestrian in the US. And just a few hours ago, if you have seen the news, it has actually turned out, apparently the car would have already recognized there's an object, and it would have almost like consciously decided not to brake because it was programmed in favor of driving comfort. Also in March, the Science magazine has published, I think, the first such research on fake news, where they analyzed all true and all fake stories between 2006 and 2017. And no surprise, what I found, fake news spread to far more people, and fake news spread in a far faster pace than true stories. The top 1% of false news reached between 1,000 and 100,000 readers, whereas the same for the true news almost barely reached more than 1,000. We all have witnessed the Facebook agony over the last months, culminating in the Facebook F8 conference just a few days ago, where 87 million users had their information shared improperly with a company called Cambridge Analytica, whose CEO has openly demonstrated in a conference in 2016 how they used data in a psychographic segmentation to take influence on the Senator Cruz campaign in the US. The company went bankrupt just a few weeks ago. Last but not least, I would like to mention machine bias. All of you know, maybe have learned about it. Machine bias is because of algorithms learn machine models which are made by humans and learn from data which are influenced by humans. Now, the former issue is well known. It's called the bias variance phenomenon. The latter one, which is about data, is very concerning also, where, for example, in the US criminal justice system, where machine models are used to predict the criminal likelihood for people, it has shown, ProPublica has shown, that black defendants, in contrast to white defendants, were 2 times more likely to incorrectly predicted for high risk for recommitting a crime, which is a huge bias for, in this case, false negative. Has very dramatic implications on individuals right now already. Another study has shown, a very different example, that men are 6 times higher than women to see Google ads for high-paying jobs. So let's be concerned about the implications of all these technologies and the machine bias that I just outlined. Now, all these examples, the huge growing numbers, the news on technology, and all the learnings we have in terms of downsides of AI and machine learning, are only a small set of examples that I bring, but they demonstrate in what fast-changing world we are living. I'm arguing here that we are living in what I would call an exponential world. An exponential world which is fueled at its roots by what Gordon Moore has observed already in 1965, namely that the number of transistors are doubling each about 2 years in integrated circuits. An exponential world which is further accelerated by distinct fundamental quantum leaps in technology, such as what I mentioned, self-learning, such as gene editing, such as blockchain, such as 5G and edge computing, and of course quantum computing. So what does it mean, exponential? Just a very simple example. If I take 30 steps in one direction in a linear way, I of course would have moved 30 meters if each step is 1 meter long. If I likewise take 30 steps, 30 exponential steps, where one step is just double the size of the next step, after the 30 exponential step, I would have circled the Earth 26 times. So the human brain is fundamentally unable to really understand the implications of exponential growth, because we have evolved over the past millions of years to deduce what happens tomorrow from what happened today in a linear manner. Companies have failed because their managers have had issues by not an exponential, but by a linear brain, where I like to remind at the example of a company called Kodak. I hope all of you remember. Kodak used to be the dominant leader in photography. In 1976, commanded 90% of the film sales and 85% of the camera sales in the US. In the same year, in 1976, an engineer, Stephen Sassoon, came into the boardroom and presented what was the first self-contained digital camera. It weighed 3.5 kilograms and it had a resolution of 0.01 megapixels. The managers naturally extrapolated linearly when they saw the device and they saw the performance, and they outrightly discarded the chance for developing the digital camera further, because they were saying the quality will never reach where we are today with paper. And by the way, anyways, this camera will only disrupt our own business, which is based on paper in the first place. No surprise, in 2012, Kodak filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. But I'm arguing the implications of an exponential world represent a tremendous opportunity for you all, for companies and for individuals alike. Because number one, there's abundance. Abundance comes with the Moore's law, because units prices fall exponentially as much as the computing power rises exponentially. Connectivity and speed, almost ubiquitous broadband coverage. And by the way, no surprise, every mobile generation has double the spectral efficiency as the previous one. Information. The best of worlds information can be accessed in the remote parts of the world by anyone. Computing power, not need to talk about it. Availability of tools. The world is going open source. There's no entry hurdle for any tools to be used. And of course, everything as a service, where infrastructure, platforms, software, analytics, everything is available as a service. And if you pay, you would only pay as you grow and earn your money. Second, in an exponential world, the only constant is change, and the change is only increasing step by step, like I explained. If you look at the companies, only 14% of the Fortune 500 companies that were there in 1955 even exist today. So almost all of them are eradicated. At the same time, new companies are rising at an ever-increasing pace. A typical Fortune 500 company took about 20 years to reach a market cap of 1 billion. If you look at Google themselves, founded in 1998, took 8 years. Facebook, founded in 2004, took 5 years for the billion market cap. Uber and WhatsApp, 2009, took only 2 years. And Snapchat, coming in 2011, reached a market cap of 1 billion in only 1 year. So you have to constantly learn. You have to constantly stay at the pace of innovation, because the half-life of business competence, which used to be 30 years, is now less than 5 years, and the half-life of technology competence, I would argue, is even less than a year. Third topic, in terms of opportunity, everything will be disrupted. Every existing company can be disrupted. There's no immunity to disruption at all. Of course, everyone knows the classical examples of Uber versus taxi, of Airbnb versus hotels. They all have in common that they established a platform business, and they took out the middleman and the system wastage, and also improved the user experience at the same time. Now we see new platform enablers, and I would like to mention at least one, which I believe is a fundamental game changer, which is the blockchain, where, for example, with Ethereum and the distributed applications that we can build on top of Ethereum. A complete new set of companies will emerge, and I wouldn't even rule out that some of the existing unicorns will be disrupted themselves quite soon. Number 4, the competition as a company is not going to be the other companies. Not going to be the other companies only. The competition is the plethora and the explosion of exponentially empowered entrepreneurs, like yourselves, hopefully. We see that small teams are very powerful now. In 2014, when WhatsApp got acquired by Facebook for $19 billion, the WhatsApp team actually only had 35 engineers, not more. Startups are successful with a handful of people. You don't need large organizations to be successful. And large organizations, even themselves, like ourselves, we are starting to dissolve hierarchies and large teams. And we are forming agile teams, which are working in a cross-functional domain manner, where we are combining around one vision for a specific product or for a specific problem to solve, the right domain experts, which can be product managers, front-end developers, back-end developers, QA people, and analytics people. So I'm arguing we are living in very exciting times where we have to be conscious of the exponential power and also the threats that are coming, as I mentioned, in terms of being conscious for what all implications technology can bring. It is on all of us to leverage the power of exponential through the use of abundance, through the use of fast learning, through the use of constant reinvention and disruption, questioning existing business models, questioning existing ways of doing things, through the use of new technologies, and also through tight networking between individuals and teams. It is on all of us to apply the power of exponential to real-world problems. Don't only go and do it in the lab. Do it for real. At Dialog, we have an amazing team of data scientists, of data engineers who are solving day and night real-world problems, such as for intelligent bots, for personal customer service, for omnichannel customer experience optimization, for real-time recommendations of the right product or service for you, for data-driven decision-making, for retail outlet planning, for network planning, and for network fault prevention, just to mention a few. So we are excited to work with you all through the different ways, and the door is open. Can be the Innovation Fund, can be the developer program, can be our open platform, and of course also our core businesses, where I'm always here if anyone wants to join. Thank you very much.